Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in today's episode where I'm interviewing Josie Leader. Did I say that right?
You did, yeah.
Awesome. Josie Leader is also known as the ex-plant eater. I like how it rhymes. And she has a very interesting story and case study, really, to share with us. So hi and welcome, Josie. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview today. And let's go ahead and just start with you giving us a little bit of a background.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. So when I was like around 12 years old, I remember I was becoming more health conscious. I was like chubby as a kid. So I decided one day when I was around 12, that I wanted to lose 20 pounds. And that led to me having an eating disorder. And it was really for like a 6-month period where I was like heavily restricting calories and I got really sick. So after that, I was at a festival and I came across a PETA tent and they were handing out the flyers and stuff. And I'm sure showing videos of what happens in slaughterhouses. And I went vegan overnight after that. And it was probably super easy for me to do it at the time because I just had an eating disorder. So like another form of eating that was like kind of restrictive but socially acceptable was really appealing to me at the time. And I also did care about animals when I was a kid. I actually wanted to be a vet. So I did care about animals too. So that part also appealed to me. And I backed throughout the years, I backed up those beliefs of mine with like reading studies like the China study and watching a bunch of vegan YouTubers. And I convinced myself that veganism was the healthiest and most ethical diet. And for the most part, I went through periods of eating like whole foods and plant-based. I obviously wasn't restricting calories because I was vegan for 14 years. So I wasn't restricting calories throughout that whole 14 years. I eventually got back to a place where I had a much healthier relationship with food and like calories and stuff, but I was still vegan. So it was having ongoing impacts on my health that I just brushed under the rug. And eventually, about a year ago, when I stopped being vegan, I realized how many little issues and big issues that I was having that I could attribute back to veganism because they improved when I stopped being vegan.
So you started veganism, full-blown vegan, ever since you were 12 or a little bit after that?
A little bit after, I would say when I was 13, I became vegan.
Okay. And you stayed vegan for 14 years after that.
Yeah. People have asked me too if I ever cheated. And really the only time I ever remember cheating was when I was probably like 14 at the time. So again, this was really early into it. One of my friends put milk in my cereal and I knew it was milk, but I didn't want to just like throw away the food. So I remember having milk that one time. And then like, I think a few years later, I had half and half once because it was the only thing in my house. And I was like 16. So I wasn't going out and buying my own groceries. But like, other than that, there was never this like I never had like cheat days or like, I never, ongoing cheated and like had animal products.
And what was the reaction of your caregivers when you announced you were going to be vegan at such a young age?
My dad was not okay with it at all, but he knew like, because I've always been very hard-headed that I was going to do what I wanted to do. And then my mom was like more sympathetic about it. I think because both of my parents just wanted me to eat like normally again because they'd seen how I was when I had an eating disorder. So they, I think, kind of catered to it because of that partially. But then as time went on, they realized that I was really serious about it and they respected it more. But it was my mom more so that like was on board with it. My dad always told me that I needed to eat meat again.
And did you take any supplements throughout the vegan journey?
Yeah, I definitely took B12 throughout the years, not like religiously, like every day regimented, but I definitely took it more times than not. I'm sure we'll get into this, but I have an autoimmune disorder, which I think I can largely attribute to veganism now. And so it was colitis. So when I was diagnosed with that, they had me taking D3. They had me taking what was the other one? They had me taking a few different supplements for that. And then, yeah, throughout the years too, I took iron a lot. Nothing like every day though, religiously that I took. It was like more so on and off when I thought, oh, maybe I need to be supplementing that.
Right. Okay. So, how did that transition happen from 14 years being on a vegan diet to going to a carnivore diet, which is a
Okay.
very stark contrast?
Yes, very, very different. Literally the opposite. Um, so last May, so we had a death in the family last May, and I was diagnosed with colitis in like 2017. And throughout the years, I've been trying to control my symptoms. They never fully went away. I would get flare-ups. So I was honestly kind of desperate to get my autoimmune disorder to stay in remission. I also didn't want to take medication for it. So I had no choice to find a way of eating that was going to work for me to keep it in remission. So when this death happened, I went back into another flare up, and I had been in the hospital I think in 2017 when I was diagnosed with colitis. So in my mind, like the worst case scenario when this happened was me having to go back to the hospital and getting like a lot sicker again, the way that I was during my worst flare up. So I was kind of desperate. And I happened to read a book that it was like about current events, and it had this little tiny paragraph in it that was about how bad it is for your brain and your tissues to not be eating collagen and cholesterol. And it just clicked for me then. I'd heard that throughout the years and I was able to brush it under the rug, but finally it clicked for me that maybe a part of why my colon can't heal itself is because I'm not eating animal products. I'm not eating any outside sources of collagen and no cholesterol at all. So I was like, okay, maybe I could just include bone broth again in my diet and see how that goes. And I was thinking if it went badly, then I would know that it's just the right thing for me to be vegan, and that I just had to deal with this autoimmune disorder my whole life. Like it was, just like a genetic thing. And so I introduced bone broth, and I was having it like a few times a day. I didn't get sick or anything. In fact, I feel like the opposite happened. I immediately started to feel a little better. It was like a very mild thing. It wasn't like going from being vegan to having eggs again. I think it would have been a much more drastic effect if I did that. But even with the bone broth, as like a week went on, I was noticing my digestion improving. My skin, I think I noticed even like it looked a little bit less dull. So I knew that it was the right thing to do. And by that logic, after that had been going well for about, I would say like 2 weeks, I was like, okay, this is obviously the right thing for me to do. Maybe I should have eggs and fish again. So I had eggs and fish again. That again went really well. I was really afraid that my stomach, like it would affect my stomach, like I'd get sick or something, especially when I had fish. I think I had shrimp again, or I either had shrimp or salmon again for the first time. And I wouldn't have even known that I ate something because it didn't affect my digestion badly at all. And I don't know if that was maybe because I was like priming my digestive system to have animal products again with the bone broth, because I don't want to say that any vegan eating meat again or fish or eggs is not going to have any digestive issues. I think that's definitely a possibility, but I didn't. Again, there was no digestive upset whatsoever. So again, I knew this is the right thing to do. And so I had fish and eggs again for a couple of weeks, probably about a month. And then, the logic kept kicking in. I kept being like, okay, maybe I should have chicken and turkey again. That went fine. And then I would say around last December, because I stopped being vegan last May. So last December, I had started having beef again. I introduced like organ meats, mainly liver. I don't have access to a lot of other ones, but I introduced that. I started having like beef fat, which really improved my skin and my digestion again. But I hadn't cut out all plant foods. I drastically reduced the processed foods I was eating, and I drastically reduced like anything with fiber, really, like starches and vegetables and stuff, but I was still eating them. And then I would say probably the same time around December, I'd found a lot of YouTubers that do this diet. I found people like you and Steak and Butter Gal. I found like Ken Berry and Anthony Chafee, and I started listening to you guys and seeing how much healthier you seemed than the people I was watching when I was vegan. And it's just started making so much sense. So in February of this year, that was when I was like, okay, I think I feel comfortable enough to remove the plants from my diet. Besides, like, I still eat fruit every once in a while, but for the most part, I do just eat like meat, eggs, dairy, and eggs. Wait, yeah, meat, eggs, dairy, and I think that's it. Yeah.
Fish.
Oh yeah, and fish. Yeah.
So how many months have you only, like, do you strictly only eat those foods now?
So I do still have coffee too.
Oh,
I even tried to reduce my coffee intake, but I do really well, and then I'll have like 2 or 3 cups in a day. So I still have coffee. Um, I do still have fruit, like not very often, but like maybe once or twice a week. And I want to say that's it. And I was having like some condiments, like I was having Tabasco sauce to season things, but with my colitis, so for anybody that's watching this that isn't aware, colitis is a digestive disorder, like an IBD. So I would get diarrhea a lot when I had colitis, and all of my other symptoms improved but the diarrhea. So the Tabasco sauce was just making me continuously have diarrhea. And I singled it out as being the thing that was causing the diarrhea, because whenever I take it out of my diet for like a week or two, the diarrhea starts to improve like drastically. So it's just not, I was including that, but it's just not something that's smart for me to be consuming.
yeah. And I would say also look into the coffee. Oftentimes when I find people on a carnivore diet that are still having diarrhea after that adaptation phase, it's usually because they're still drinking coffee. So that would be another tip if you want to do that in the future.
Eventually I might get there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. I get it. Like, it took me 3 tries to cut out coffee. The first time I cut it out for 30 days, and then I fell and I went back. And it's very easy for me to go back to it. Like, once I have a cup, then the next day I'm gonna have another cup, etc. And then it goes from 1 cup a day to 2 cups a day very quickly.
Yeah.
So, and then I tried another 30 days, and then again I had another cup, and then finally it's been over 6 months, 6.5 months now without any caffeine. So I completely have forgotten about it, and it gets just so much easier. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah, I'm sure you can do it. And it's an addictive substance. And if you look into the addiction literature, it takes an average of 5 tries to cut an addictive substance before people actually succeed on that. So, you know, it's fine if you've tried to do it before. Every time you do it, you get better at that. And so just keep trying, and eventually one day you'll just wake up and it'll stick and you won't even think about it. So how did your ulcerative colitis improve ever since you've been doing an animal-based diet with just a little bit of fruit and, you know, coffee?
So I can say it actually did improve right away, like when I stopped being vegan, when I was still consuming plant foods, but it didn't improve all the way. I was still having digestive pain, but essentially, I would say when I reintroduced chicken and turkey again, that was when I really saw a lot of the symptoms go away. So with colitis, I was having pain after I would eat. I was having like severe bloating, but I think that was also just because of veganism. I was having blood in my stool. That was probably the worst thing. Diarrhea multiple times a day. And I would have, when I was in the worst of my flares, I would get fevers on a daily basis, like a low fever every day. And also, obviously, because I was losing blood, and I was literally prevented from eating sometimes because of the pain. I was so low on energy, so it was not a fun time. So all of those symptoms, if I was in a really bad flare, would get like drastic and like horrible. When it was a minor flare, they would still be there, but they would just not be as bad. So essentially, I would say after about 3 months of, after I'd stopped being vegan for about 3 months, most of those symptoms had improved. I was maybe just having like a tiny bit of blood in my stool, and still, you know, the diarrhea still hasn't stopped to this day, but it's not urgent and it's not multiple times a day anymore. So that also drastically improved. I don't get any pain anymore after I eat. That was, I think, with switching to carnivore and eliminating all the fiber, that was the biggest improvement, that I no longer ever had any pain after I would eat, because even that was still happening when I just reintroduced animal products, but I hadn't eliminated all plants, like all fiber.
Right.
Essentially, all of those really severe symptoms have gone away.
Incredible. And I see this on a regular basis, things that we were never taught that diet could be the culprit, completely resolve for a lot of people, you know, just by changing their diet. What about that transitional phase? Did you ever suffer with cravings and, you know, that sugar addiction, that carb addiction? Because when you're going on a vegan diet, it's very easy to eat a lot of carbs. So to go from there to almost no carbs, did you struggle with that? Do you still struggle with that?
I want to say that I did a little bit. Weirdly, even since I was a kid, I never really had a sweet tooth. I always liked like real food. That's what my dad would say. So I feel like I never developed that bad of like a sugar addiction throughout my life, but I definitely had carb cravings. And I think that not being afraid, because I do include a lot of fat in my diet, I feel like that has really mitigated the carb cravings, because like every once in a while too, I will like really crave like honey and stuff, which I actually was eating honey too up until like about 2 months ago. But I I haven't really had like too bad of carb cravings. I feel like it's because though I jumped into eating like a lot of animal fat pretty quickly because I saw how much better I was feeling.
Right. That's great. And why did you stop the honey?
I just felt like it was unnecessary, and I watch all of you guys, and like I know everybody says to like not eat that much carbs, so I figured maybe it's just best to just have just the animal products without the honey, and like fruit too. I would still eat fruit, but it honestly gives me digestive upset still to this day, like not crazy digestive upset, but I'll get like a tiny bit of pain, and sometimes I do get like constipation from it. So overall, I just, for the most part, decided like I'm just gonna do just animal products.
Amazing. So were you posting on your Instagram about the vegan lifestyle before? And then, first of all, let's answer that question and then I'll ask the follow-up.
So I have another Instagram that I made when I was vegan, and I don't even remember what it was called now, but it never. I just was never very passionate about it either, and I felt like there were so many other people with the same kind of Instagrams that to grow an account based off something like that, I feel like you really had to have a huge YouTube channel or something. So I did have a separate like vegan Instagram that I had my personal Instagram where if anybody had been following me for any amount of time, or if they knew me in real life, they knew I was vegan. They knew I was like dead set on veganism, especially when I was diagnosed with colitis. A lot of people in my life tried to tell me I got it because I was vegan and I didn't want to listen. So even then I like buckled down harder, and I was like, it's not because I'm vegan. I'm going to be vegan for the rest of my life. And I like really, again, like doubled down, and that everybody thought I would probably be vegan my whole life. And so it wasn't, so with my Instagram now, it wasn't like I had to completely switch it and rebrand. It's a completely new thing. But my personal Instagram is almost what made me want to make my Instagram now, where I talk about like carnivore stuff and like ex-veganism, stuff like that. Because a lot of people that I knew in my life, I felt like found it a little weird, and like they just didn't get it, or they just couldn't fathom it, like how somebody could go from being a like hardcore vegan for 15 years to being, to be fair, I don't think anybody for the most part, really knows that I like do the carnivore diet now, unless they found this Instagram. I have a few people that I know in real life that have found it, probably from Instagram, being sneaky and suggesting it to people. But otherwise, people that I just know that are more of acquaintances, they have no idea that I like completely do the opposite now. But they still, I think like if I ever post anything on my personal Instagram that's about how my health has improved since I stopped being vegan, it doesn't get like almost any engagement. People don't care. I don't know if it's either because they like think I'm lying or whatever it
On
is.
your
Yeah.
personal one, it doesn't get engagement. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it made me, that was kind of what made me be like, maybe I should just make a whole separate platform to talk about these things, because I feel like there's really, it's important. And I'm going to be researching this stuff now no matter what, because I'm just interested in learning about it. So I might as well make a whole other space where I can talk about it with people who are actually interested. So from the beginning, it wasn't like I had this like vegan Instagram that I completely rebranded. That would have been a headache.
Exactly.
Yeah. Luckily, no.
But despite that, do you get any criticism, pushback, resistance, or you didn't do it right, all that kind of stuff from people who are currently vegan? Because your story challenges every core belief that they have, right? So just
Yeah.
knowing about your story can be triggering.
Yeah. So I get a lot. I don't want to say I get a lot, because the support outweighs the hate like infinitely, honestly. I've gotten so much more support than hate, but I do get a fair amount of it. And I used to engage with those people and try to talk sense into them, or just explain, I tried to do this and it didn't work. But as of lately, I've realized how pointless it is. And I usually just block people like that, or I just let them comment and I just don't respond, and their comment can just stay there. And usually somebody else that follows me will find it and start responding to that person and explaining why they're wrong. But the really crazy ones, I actually on my Instagram have something called the wall of shame. And so I'll take all of the really insane vegan comments and I put them all like on the wall of shame. And that's only for the ones that are just completely unhinged.
Funny, like a highlight.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's hilarious. I'm gonna check that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see how many crazy arguments could be leveraged. So did you buy into the whole environment and animal cruelty? Were you ever aware of how many more sentient or emotion feeling animals are actually killed when you are producing agricultural foods as opposed to rangeland beef production? Like, did you know all these things?
I had no idea. I feel like if somebody had presented that to me, because I was never even exposed to that information as a vegan. I was exposed to other things that kind of challenge my beliefs, but that I'd never heard. So even as a vegan, I think I would have still been like, well, I'm still not eating them, so I'm still not directly contributing to an animal dying. That's probably how I would have thought about it. But now I find it to be so mind-blowing, because yeah, really, especially if you're buying just grass-fed beef, you're actually responsible for the death of a lot less animals, which again is so crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that as a vegan, but I don't know, maybe if I had been aware of that and I had been aware of the truth of a lot of these things, I wouldn't have been so devout in eating a vegan diet.
Right. And it's something that we all do, right? Because it's more comforting. It's easier to surround ourselves with content and people that confirm what we already think is true, as opposed to seek out things that are going to challenge our deepest beliefs. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. It's called cognitive dissonance in psychology, right? And people just don't like to feel that way. This is why vegans could get triggered just by hearing your story, because if they believe it, then it's like this crisis inside of how, well, then I have to shift every single belief that I've accumulated over the last, I don't know how many months or years. So
Yeah.
it's really uncomfortable, and but it's a good practice to kind of, and I try to do that because we're all guilty of trying to just stay within our echo chambers, you know. But it's good to practice every once in a while, watching something like a completely different point of view that you know is going to trigger you, maybe in small little doses, and then you build up that defense, you know, and you get more comfortable being exposed to opposing arguments.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually, so I watch some of the old vegan accounts that I used to watch as a vegan now, just so I can actually like really think more deeply about the way that they think, because the longer I distance myself from it, the longer I do feel like I get into this echo. It's not, I don't think it's really an echo chamber. I think it's just a lot of things that are true, but I like to hear their side of it, so I do have these arguments when I need them.
That's good. That's very good. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I recommend we all do, you know, albeit it might be a little difficult, you know, at least at the
Yeah.
beginning. Um, so I remember you were talking with Bella from Steak and Butter Gal, that your skin transformed, you
Mhm.
know, when you did that shift from a vegan diet to an animal-based or carnivore diet. Can you shed a little bit more light on that?
Sure. Yep. So I hadn't realized when I was still vegan that my skin was premature aging. I didn't think of it that way, but I did start noticing that my face, like my skin looked older. I wasn't thinking about it that way, but I was just unhappy with the way my skin was starting to look. My face was, especially like beneath my jawline, my skin was starting to droop. And I was telling myself that it must just be the way my face always looked. And I consistently, it started to bother me more and more because it seemed to be getting worse. And I think a part of it too was just my face bloating because of the way I was eating. Because obviously, when I was vegan, I was eating a lot more carbs. And even my neck, I had noticed it seemed to almost be like swollen, like just this air. It's hard to describe, but this area of my face was just uh, bloated almost or swollen, and yeah, it wasn't like taut the way it is now, if that's the best word to describe it. And so again, I thought it was normal as a vegan, and after I introduced the bone broth and then like chicken and eggs again and fish, it was starting to improve. And my skin also is very pale as a vegan, and it has a lot more color now. It was pale and it had a yellow tint, probably
Mm.
from the beta carotene in my under my skin or whatever, however that works. So as the more time that went on after I stopped being vegan, the yellow tint in my skin went away. My skin developed a much like more red undertone. My skin like developed a glow, especially since I started eating beef fat. Beef fat was really like a game changer. It improved my skin like drastically. And other than that too, like my under eye bags improved a lot. They're still not perfect, probably because I haven't cut out coffee yet. And the drooping in my skin though was the biggest change. Like my skin really like tightened up again, probably to the way, you know, it's actually supposed to look at this point in my life. I'm going to be 28 in a month, so I don't think it was really that normal that my skin was drooping the way it was.
Incredible. Do you take any supplements right now?
No, I was taking ancestral supplements. I think that they're great, but I don't know if this is just me or like if this is normal, but the supplements with liver in it, I feel like it always would make me break out along my jawline, not drastically, but I would always notice that. So I did cut them out. I would, if I still, I just happened to run out of it, but if I did still have it, I'd probably still take their beef tallow. But I eat beef tallow like with my food and stuff. So it
Right.
doesn't make much of a difference.
I would concurrently, if you do want to try it again, or if anybody's listening also struggled with that, I would concurrently take vitamin D, because high vitamin A will kind of mimic a vitamin D deficiency and vice versa. High vitamin D can mimic a vitamin A deficiency because they're supposed to be present in high amounts together. And so when you have an imbalance in one or the other, it can lead to potentially, you know, some of those kinds of reactions. Just, you know,
Okay.
something to keep in mind. Yeah. How is your exercise? And actually, first, how are your energy levels before versus now? And do you exercise?
Okay. So as a vegan, especially after I got colitis, I just never had energy and I had really bad brain fog also. I remember I was always trying to find herbs and stuff and like, you know, the magic food that would make me focus and give me
Right.
a clear mind. And I never found it, obviously. So since I especially transitioned to carnivore, it's been a 180. I have consistent energy throughout the day. I have a very physical job. I work at a dog hotel, so I am running around all day and like cleaning, and it's like a hectic, very physical job. So I feel like before I did start the carnivore diet, I would get more dips in energy. Like I would eat my lunch too, and I would feel tired after sometimes. But again, I wasn't like overdoing the carbs, so it wasn't that bad after I did reintroduce animal products. But again, it was noticeable. Like my energy would dip, and I would want to like take a nap or something. Now, when I have my lunch, or you know, after I eat my first meal of the day, I have energy, and I can just get to what I need to do. And I never want to take a nap right after I eat. That used to happen to me all the time when I was vegan. I wouldn't actually take a nap, but I would like really want to. And so my energy improved immensely. And then the mental and brain fog also has completely gone away.
That's, yeah, that's what I see on a regular basis, even with people who might not have had an autoimmune condition, just overall regular, like healthy, no major condition that's been diagnosed. I would say energy is like the biggest thing that that improves drastically on a carnivore diet. It's like more of a level kind of energy,
Yeah.
where yeah, it can be 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're still going, you know, and you're working and you're on it, you know. Because growing up, I used to eat very plant-based. I grew up in Lebanon, so we would eat the Mediterranean diet, which was mainly, you know, rice and beans and salads and stuff like that, but like tons of carbs.
Mm,
And it was very like my energy, like after 4 p.m., like I'm done for the day. It was very difficult to be productive past that point.
mm,
And you know, on carnivore, you don't have that anymore. Even on keto, I would say I still struggled with energy imbalances, because of the cravings of the foods, because you're eating things that are still addictive on keto, and that creates cravings, and the cravings can cause some of those dips in energy levels. But with carnivore, it's just completely different. So good
yeah.
news. Yeah. So, Josie, what would you like to share with our audience who may be, I mean, most of my audience is carnivore, but maybe somebody is vegan or plant-based, and the title of this video piqued their interest, maybe because they have ulcerative colitis, for example. What would you share with people, and what would you wanna, like, what's the main message that you would want to tell them?
I feel like at this point, my main message is that if you're vegan or plant-based and you have a lot of mental fog, if you have digestive issues, if you have mental health issues, which that also completely improved for me doing the carnivore diet, if you are suffering with any of those issues, I would say to give even just animal products, for you know, forget about the carnivore diet, just animal products, see how just including them again improves your health. Because what I've found with a lot of vegans is that they claim that they're perfectly healthy, and then on the other hand they openly admit to having all of those issues, and they really think that perfect health includes those things. And yeah, I would say for them to just try just including animal products again to see how much better they feel. because I was terrified to stop being vegan. It was like a whole part of my identity. And since I did especially start the carnivore diet, it completely transformed my life, like quite literally, in a good way.
Yeah, of course. Was it you who shared on the Instagram about this person who was arguing that they're perfectly healthy on a vegan diet, and then you click on their profile and it shows that they are, was it you? That they
I
are
think
an
so.
autoimmune warrior, like some autoimmune disease, like Crohn's warrior or something like that.
I don't know if that was me, if it was Crohn's disease, but that exact thing happened to me. Like I have that person's the screenshot of their comments on the whole thing that happened on my wall of shame. Because yeah, I made this whole post about how vegans say that they're perfectly healthy, and then normally like the telltale things that they have are mental health issues, digestive issues, and skin issues, something like that. Whatever it was, a few different issues that vegans always say they have. And some person, they seem well-meaning at first, but he commented on the post and he was like, I've been vegan for this amount of time, and all of those issues for me actually improved drastically since I went vegan. And so I commented back to the person, and a few of my other followers commented back to him, and he kept arguing with us. And then lo and behold, somebody checked his Instagram, and he, I think, had ulcerative colitis. He was taking biologics, and he had literally just made a post 2 weeks prior about how he can't do physical activity anymore because he's so sick. So that blew my mind, like how in denial a person could be. Because even, I don't think I even would have been delusional enough when I was at my sickest with colitis to say, oh yeah, I'm healthy, even though I still couldn't make the connection. But yeah,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Our idea of health for a lot of people is, I'm not dying, thus I'm healthy. It's like, no, like,
yeah,
that's not what health is. It's the complete absence of any physical ailment, not only the absence of ailments, but optimizing for energy, optimizing for well-being and happiness and skin health. Like you have to optimize. You don't just want to not be like diagnosed with things and taking drugs for them. But I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, I think that
yeah.
might be it might be your Instagram where I saw that. I wanted to ask you about your mental health. I know we talked about brain fog, but was there anything else in addition to that?
So like I said before, the eating disorder definitely was for that concentrated period of my life when I was about 12. But afterwards, I feel like a lot of that mindset never fully leaves you, even when you do start eating normally again. So I just throughout the years, I experienced a lot of guilt, a lot of like depression related to how much I was eating and like how I perceived myself to look. So that always was like a huge mental a mental weight on me, I guess, again throughout the years. And what else? I feel like I just had much lower self-esteem. Like I feel like my confidence has gotten a lot greater without having to do anything special eating this way, which goes back to just feeling a lot better, feeling like I look a lot healthier, and then being able to think clearly. So it's improved. My mental health is improved, but it's because of like a host of different things.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. And that all matters. That's all very important. Um, Josie, where can people find you?
So I have an Instagram where I share a lot of carnivore related things and sometimes like goofy things, like when vegans make a complete fool of themselves. I share things like that. I try not to be too mean, but I do share things like that on my Instagram, and I share what I eat a lot of the time so people can actually see what I eat on this diet. And I have a YouTube channel as well. I post a lot of what I eat in a days on there. And I've been starting to make more videos about just general topics surrounding this diet. And that's also called the Plant Eater. So they can find me in those two places.
Wonderful. I make sure that I link them all below. What else? Is there anything else you would like to end with? Or maybe like your plan for the next few years? Where do you see yourself?
Eventually, I feel like I'm starting to do this now, but I do want to start making more informational videos about like the truth about veganism. I guess like
Ooh.
not
Tread
documentaries, but
carefully.
yeah, like just present my findings like we were talking about earlier with the crop deaths and stuff, like present things like that in a video format, in a really like understandable form. I actually do write also, but that's completely separate from this, so that's why I wouldn't really share it. But I do have that skill to maybe like write pamphlets or something, or like a book eventually, not anytime soon. But I've also been thinking maybe about going into coaching, but it's just an idea right now. I'm just trying to like focus on my YouTube channel and building that right now.
And where are you based right now?
New York.
New York. Okay. Yeah. That's good. That's why we're both on the Eastern time zone. That's wonderful, Josie. Thank you so much. It was very exciting when I heard about your story and I watched your interview with Bella, so I knew that I had to get you here. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And I know that you're going to help out so many people that are probably still in denial by just with your video and with your Instagram, and by doing these podcasts that you're doing. It's really important to spread the word, because right now we are definitely the minority, but we're very passionate, and a very passionate group that's putting out a lot of content. So eventually people will, once they get to their wits end, they will eventually get the message, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. This was such a great chat. It was so nice to talk to you.
Thank you. Likewise, Josie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And if you like this kind of content, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.